was like, well, man, if they damage your stuff, call the cops. And a lot of anarchists would be like, never call the police for anything.
I believe you called it like an eviction for cases of rape. I can think of other situations where I feel like a quote abortion would be, for lack of a better term, justified.
If somebody trespasses on your lawn, the correct thing to do is to not walk out and dissect them and throw their chunks into the street.
Are principles like flat rules or more like tools? I really want to start having these conversations with my family. I'm kind of coming from the perspective of being new to anarchy. So it's like, I feel like in the last 6 months, I consider myself an anarchist.
Well, congratulations. That's epic news. So well done. So for some context, I try and maintain for years now an open invitation for anyone that disagrees with me or has questions, that they are welcome to join me for a conversation just about any time. And then over this past 6 months, I've been incredibly preoccupied with launching my new company, which I've talked about on the channel. And that has left me unable to make as good on the promises of open conversations as I would have liked. So I've kept you waiting quite a while, but finally here we are. I do remember that you sent over an intro into what you were interested in talking about, but this was quite a while ago, and I have no idea. So I'm happy to just I guess let you lead the conversation, and we can talk about whatever you'd like.
Okay. Most of it is just more like clarity on certain issues, because I was trying to talk about this earlier to try to make sure my ideas are more concise and not too broad. But typically, because a few of them I feel like I've kind of worked through, but basically, I feel like what I want to go over is keeping an anarchist mindset, because I do feel like sometimes I want to default back to status kind of mindset. Also living as an anarchist in a status world right now, and I can kind of clarify that a little bit later. And then IP, and I kind of just want to discuss abortion with you a little bit, because I was watching one of your YouTube's videos about it, and I feel like I 99% agree with you, but I just wanted to make sure, like, the principles that we use, are we using them as flat rules, or are we using them as tools?
Okay. All right. Well, this sounds like a lovely 3 or 4 course meal. So where do you want to start?
Okay. What do you feel would be better to be more cohesive?
I think your order was nice. Why don't you just start at the beginning?
Okay. So I do want to give a little bit of a backstory too. That way you understand kind of more of my mindset.
Actually, let's start with what's your name? What should I call you?
My name's Ken.
Ken. So good to meet you, Ken.
You as well. So yeah, my name's Ken. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I was raised with basically as a liberal Democrat. I know those could be dirty words, but that's how I was kind of raised, and how I'm trying to get away from it a little bit. I do feel like in the last few years I was kind of the anarchist path, until I met my boyfriend I have now, who basically like, hey, you want to go down that road? And I felt like kind of expedited it a little bit, because he also is what introduced me to you and Larkin.
Do I know your partner?
Maybe Street Nickel was his name on here.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, he's been a big help. But like, kind of like I was saying a moment ago, I kind of just want to go over, like, now that see myself as an anarchist and stuff like that, I do find that sometimes I still default because, like, an example is like police. Like, I want to support them, but I also don't because I see the problems we have with police. But how I can kind of get away from wanting to default to that, and I kind of want to just know, like, is this something that is like a progression that I eventually will just get out of, or is there's like a resource, like a book or other sources I can read to help with that?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not sure that your current position is. I mean, anything wrong. It sounds pretty rational to be conflicted when we're in the middle of this like very conflicted, messy state of existence. We are, in fact, to some degree, and this is going to piss off some of the anarchists in the audience. We are, to some degree, protected by these assholes in blue costumes. And we are violently barred from competing with them and forming better services. And we're even left in. I literally 2 days ago had a situation in Dallas where someone was calling me for sort of to show up as like security in a possibly contentious situation that they were in with somebody. They needed somebody to kind of show up just to make sure that everything stayed calm and chill. And it turns out that like they didn't end up needing me because the person they were worried about had already broken into some property and caused some damage. And I was like, well, man, if they damage your stuff, call the cops. Like, and a lot of anarchists would be like, you never call the police for anything. Look, man, if somebody is already not respecting your property, then I'm not sure how much interest I would have in protecting them from being involved with the police cartel. Let me put it that way. So, is that a emotionally conflicting place to be? Hell yeah, it is. And I don't want to like. This is not a cult. Like, this is not like a. We're just a bunch of individuals out here trying to figure out how to survive in this crazy situation. So,
Exactly.
is there certain situations in which we can look at a cop and be like, hell yeah, he did a good job? Hey, certainly there is. Like, cops do good things occasionally. Individual cops do good things. I'm not speaking collectively. They do good things while they're being terrible people, cashing paychecks filled with stolen money and wielding, immoral power over people. Both can be true at the same time, and that is a very mentally conflicting place to be. So I don't know that there's anything wrong with you. Like, you have to remember in all things to continue judging people as individuals, and stay rational.
Right. Yeah. Because that is something I have worked on. Because, like you were saying in like your videos that I've watched, is again, and it was probably because of my uprising, I do tend to want to default to the collectivist, like we, and I've been trying to replace we with I. So
it will change how you interact with the world. I mean, it certainly has me in the years that I've been doing it. I speak for myself, and when I speak for other people, even when there are groups of other people, I try to say that group of people that call themselves whatever. I even, like that's extra words, and it's kind of annoying, but it's good to remember that there's individuals behind these collectives that we use. Anyway.
right.
I don't know if that answered really your question about the cops or whatever, but if not, let me know.
I feel like it may not necessarily answer the questions, but at least I now feel like more like on the right track. I'm not like missing anything, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure.
Because other than that, I was trying to think of a little bit of a segue, but I feel like this kind of goes in with this is like abortion and like quote quote abortion rights and stuff like that. Because like I said earlier, I feel like I 99% agree with you on the stance with abortion, and like I believe you called it like an eviction for cases of rape. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not getting anything wrong. But I was also thinking too, like I can think of other situations where I feel like a quote quote abortion would be, for lack of a better term, justified. Uh, and this is why I was asking, like, are principles like flat rules or more like tools? Because the example I was thinking about is I know of a case where a mother wanted a child, but the baby embryo, or I don't know what to say it is, attaches inside the fallopian tubes and not in the uterus. And growing in the fallopian tubes will cause it to burst. So the baby is not going to survive, regardless if the mother tries to keep the baby. And in turn, in these cases too, can actually kill the mother as well. So I feel in situations like that, like an abortion for that child, even though it's horrible and the child is wanted, would be justified because we're going to end up saving the mother's life. The mother can then heal and then hopefully try to have another child again. So
yes, I think
I
in
was just,
I think in that really long abortion mega stream, we covered threats to the life of the mother being a valid reason for eviction. Not
okay.
and I mark a pedant. It's a pedantic distinction now, but it might not be in the future. In fact, I'm pretty sure it won't be in the future, and that's why we make it like the difference between an abortion and an eviction. For those listening, if just in case, I mean, you might already know, but for people listening, the difference between an abortion and an eviction is that an abortion, most if not all abortion procedures, they'll chop up the baby inside the womb and then suck it out in parts. So they kill it and then remove sort of the parts. And
Mhm.
an eviction is a difference in the force used. So the idea with an eviction is that you remove the quote unquote trespasser in the least damaging way possible, giving it the highest possible chance of surviving as undamaged as possible. Now, is that a distinction without a difference for fetuses under, what is it, 16 weeks now? Yes,
Mhm.
because there's no medical technology that we have yet developed that can reliably incubate a fetus evicted, before that threshold. So it is a distinction without a difference today. Um, but tomorrow, and as medical technology proceeds to up to and including the point where you can fully incubate um, an egg completely outside of the mother's womb, it might be entirely possible to evict a baby, um, even at that early stage, and have it proceed on to living a full life. So
Right.
today it's not as important as it might be tomorrow, but nevertheless, there's a distinction in the level of force used to resolve the property issue. So if somebody trespasses on your lawn, the correct thing to do is to not walk out and dissect them and throw their chunks into the street. The first,
Right.
your first option is to, hey, get off my lawn. No, I mean
Right.
it, get off my lawn, and then maybe you push them or threaten them, or you escalate slowly rather than go to the most extreme option first.
Right. So would you agree then, because like I like how you always say like words can be very glossy. So do you feel like it's important then with conversations like this that we distinct an abortion as A and an eviction as B?
I think they're distinctly different concepts. Abortions entail, and when I say entail, I mean they involve always the killing of the baby in question, whereas an eviction is specifically saying, hey, let's do everything reasonable to do as little harm as possible in this process of resolving the property dispute.
Right. Yeah, I was just asking because like one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you is I want to be able to start having like anarchist conversations with other people outside of people who just agree with me automatically because I really want to start having these conversations with my family because I feel like I know the issues to open the door for them, but I just want to make sure that I have my ducks in a row before starting to do these conversations.
The abortion one for
Um,
most people, I find, has nothing to do with anything we've just been discussing, and everything to do with um, their standards for what constitutes something that is deserving of rights. Um,
right.
so it's like once you've solved that equation with somebody, the details of eviction versus abortion become easy, right?
Right. Yeah. I feel like I'm seeing your point more clearly now. So, because I just, I am very much the person where like, I want to take everybody's point of view and what they know and want into consideration and stuff like that. Because I want to be as fair to people as possible, but I want to make sure that I'm firm and I know what my principles are for myself to be accountable for myself.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Well,
um,
usually abortion is the hardest topic on the list, and so that was pretty easy. What's next?
no, bro. Um, I was just thinking next with IP because I feel like a lot of the issues we have are people want to take like a shovel or like a hatchet to, where I want to take more of like a scalpel because with IP, like I agree, like in most cases, like IP is not property and stuff like that. It's not something tangible. Um, so like if I invented the like a heart that would 100% save everybody who has heart issues, and then someone else figures out how to make it cheaper or whatever, like they have the right to do that, and I feel like that's better for society to do that. But where I'm getting to is like issues where like things are just like for creative purposes. So as an example, uh, if I want to create like a completely fictional novel book that I want to sell for money, because like I want to get will like to try to make money off of the work that I've done because I like take pride in my work and I like to be creative. Um, so it doesn't serve any purpose of like bettering people in a sense of like saving someone's life in the case of the heart. Um, but like with IP, and I feel like I'm more concentrating on more of like copyright because the example I was talking about earlier with my boyfriend was that if I write this book and I publish it and I get it out there for people to buy to read, but then somebody else wants to like take my book, not change anything, because if I would even concede like if you take my book and you're like, oh, I feel like this second half of this book I can make better, and you change it, I will concede that that's now your book. But if you're just in cases of like completely just taking my book, copying it, claiming it as your own, and then selling it, I feel like when I have the right to be able to go say like, hey, this person is plagiarizing my work. Here's my copyright to prove that I did this work. Because like and I also wanted to sing too, like I wouldn't go as far as like being like taking this person to court and stuff like that. I just want to be able to like, hey, interject, be able to prove myself. So like in the case, like if that person wants to take me to court, I have that tool in my arsenal. Be like, hey, this person's lying. Here is my proof, and isn't copyright IP?
um, okay,
I'm
so I'm not really clear on the question. There's some various things that you brought up. Is
sorry.
copyright intellectual property? Yes. Um, are you asking if it's okay to tell people that somebody is copying your work? Of course it is. And it's fine to shame the hell out of them too and put their picture on a billboard saying, hey, look at this guy that's copying the work that I did and selling it as if it's his. Yeah, I mean, that's all fine. That has nothing to do with intellectual property. Intellectual property is using the guns of the government to control how other people are using their property. And so that would be like, if you took him to court or had your lawyer send him a copyright notice. Those are involving, now you're standing behind the guns of the government to control what that person is doing with property that they own, with real actual property that they own. So I guess I'll hand it back to you now, and let me know if I haven't really addressed your concern or not, because I'm not really sure.
Well, I think we're on the same page, but like I think I'm more asked is like, up to what point would you say I have the right to do this, and then if I do that, now I'm crossing the line? Because like I would say,
give me some examples. What do you want to do?
Right. So, I feel like I would have the right to be able, like you were saying, to publicly shame them, but like within my capabilities of doing it, be able to be like, I would like to be able to request a person to stop, and I guess what I'm saying is like if they're trying to use another publisher to do it, because if we're not going to use like copyright rules or IP rules to stop the publisher from doing it, because if we're going to use IP laws, then we're involving government. So would I have the right to ask that?
So in a free society without government, you can absolutely contact the publisher he was using to make the copies and be like, hey, he didn't write that, I did. And that publisher can decide to care about that or not.
Right.
And I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Of course, you can tell anybody you want, and I mean, telling people information is not a problem. Now, we live in a society where the government exists, and so I would say that you need to be a little careful, because these companies will interpret most things that you tell them as legal matters. In fact, it might not really even be possible for them to not interpret that way. So, like, if you contacted a publisher today and be like, hey, that's actually my work, I created that, they are going to interpret that in a copyright frame of mind, and they're going to be like, oh, crap, he owns the copyright. We can't be printing this. Otherwise, he might sue us. And they're right. You might sue them, as far as they're aware, and they might get in big trouble, which is why these copyright houses will verify that you own the copyright and require you to sign contracts stating that you do hold the copyright before they'll. I mean, they're not going to sign you if they can't verify that you're the original artist. So it would be very unlikely in today's world that they would even be able to get it published by somebody else. And if they did, you could certainly just write, a note to the company, be like, hey, I actually wrote this, not him. Here's some proof, and that'd probably be the end of it.
Right.
Now,
I understand what you're saying.
Now, to cross the line, because this is a good example to bring you right up to it, if you had your lawyer send the publishing house a copyright notice, well, now you're pointing government guns at the copyright house. So that's the difference. I think you'd get what you wanted both ways. Even in a free society without a government, I really bet that publishing companies would not want to have the reputational damage done to them by publishing things by fraudulent authors, so they would probably not do it anyway. So I think you'd get what you'd want in any situation just by contacting them. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Right. Well, I think the reason I was asking is I understand like we live in a serious world right now, but I want to make sure that I'm living my life by the right principles. Like I know what actions we might have to take, but I want to make sure I'm living up to my principles. Because like I remember the other day where like you were using a flagpole example of like if I fall off the balcony and the and I grab onto that flagpole and that saves my life, but the homeowner of that flag tells me to let go. And I believe you said in that case that you would let go because you want to live by your principles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think
So,
we agree, and I wouldn't have any problem contacting the publishing company and being like, "Hey, that's not this person's work; it's mine, and here's my proof." And
right,
you could, if you wanted to be extra sure, you could be like, "And this is not a copyright notice, and I'm not threatening to sue you, but you need to be aware that this is not the original author, and if this guy has told you that he's the original author, that was fraudulent."
right. But like, I think my question stems from that is like, how could I prove that if I don't have IP copyright? So I'm just wondering, and maybe this is like a market, like a free market problem that we need to like discuss to figure out a solution. But I feel like that's just the road that I'm on
Well, I
with
mean,
IP.
you're gonna have a. I mean, the beginning or end of your book usually has like a published date on it. You'll have the first date that you offered it for sale somewhere. You'll be able to prove that. Um, uh, like, there's ways that you could prove that you did it first,
Okay.
and so those kinds of proofs would probably be enough.
Would you say like even like getting like the book notarized with something? But again, isn't notarization government?
I mean,
Because I'm also
it is a government person, a government process, or government recognized process. So you can prove that you signed a paper on a certain day. How you
right,
use that will determine if that's a good or a bad thing, But
right,
yeah, there's no harm in getting things notarized. I don't think.
right. Sorry, I was just thinking out loud a little bit right there.
Yeah, sure.
um, but yeah, because I feel like I understand what you're saying. So yeah, and I guess then the next question was this kind of basically goes into how I can live my life um, with government, but minimizing the amount that I'm in because I've been very much interested in agorism. So I've been trying to find as many ways to live as an agorist as I can. But where I'm going with this is that, um, and it's kind of like a two part because like I've already kind of decided for myself, like with the issues of voting, as will never vote for president because I don't want it to legitimize that issue. But I wanted to know your opinions when it comes to like issues of like things on the ballot, such as should we legalize this or that? And I feel like this issue is something that's very highly involved in my life. I don't want it to be considered illegal. Is it within my principles to go in and like uh, vote to make sure that this doesn't become illegal for me, or does that still fall into like legitimizing the process? Because I don't want something that I care about to be illegal, but
The legitimize the process argument, as far as I can tell, is invalid. I've never heard a good argument for legitimizing the process. The process is invalid no matter what you do. And there's very little. I can't. I really struggle to even think of a scenario that would validate the process. It, if so, the best way I've seen to sort of evaluate any action or interaction you can have from a moral perspective is it falls in one of three categories. It's like a moral positive, meaning it's actively a good thing. It's amoral, meaning there's no moral quality to it at all. It's just is. It's not good or bad. Or it's immoral, meaning it's actively evil. Let's say. Um, I've never found a good definition to be able to name something as a universal objective good. So I usually don't talk about the, what I usually don't talk about or care too much about those types of statements. I have things that I think are good, but I can't prove them from an objective way. I think it's good to be kind and to treat people how they treat you, or to treat people how you want to be treated, and until you meet them, and then treat them how they treat you. Yeah, be generous and help people in need. These are things that I think are good, but this is just my subjective opinion. I'm not making universal statements that I can prove here.
Right.
Then there's like most everything that you do on the list is an amoral action, which there's no moral quality to it. It's just something you're doing. It's not good or bad. And that includes pretty much anything you can do that doesn't create victims or hurt people or damage people's property or violate people's consent. So as long as it's not doing those things, it's not in the evil category. And that's really what it comes down to when you're thinking about voting. Is voting an aesthetically disgusting process because it's a pony show put on by disgusting tyrants? I mean, yeah, that's my opinion on it, but that's a subjective opinion, not a moral one. You can form your own subjective, amoral opinions about it. And if there's a vote coming along that reduces tyranny, let's say, if it passes, and it in no way increases tyranny, so it doesn't tax anymore, it doesn't increase regulation in some other area, it's simply, let's say, like, for example, a referendum legalizing pot, or a referendum lowering property taxes, and that's all it does. There's no moral issue that would prevent you from voting for that. It becomes like do it if you want, do it if you think it'll help. If you think talking to the mafia and being like, hey mafia, lower my taxes will help, and if you think that'll get them to lower your taxes, do it, man. Ask them. Why not? Or don't. It's up to you. So I guess that's my position. Hopefully that helps.
Right. I just love that you just referred to it as the mafia, though. That put a smile on my face.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what the government is. They want their protection.
I agree.
They want their protection.
I definitely agree. But my next subject within comes with government is like living with government, in the sense that, like, I've kind of had this conversation with my boyfriend about, like, if we ever get serious enough down the road, would you ever, like, consider getting married? Because the big things for me is just being able to take care of the people that I care about. I'm very much kind of like, I think the terms like mother hen, like I like to take care of the people that's closest to me. And so say, like, I was thinking, like, if I ever need to cover him for medical insurance, the only way here to do that is if we're married. But he expressed his opinion that he doesn't ever want to get married because he doesn't want government involved, which I can respect. But how do you, or how would I be able to still do the things that I want while respecting the things that he wants from it? Or is that like a case where, like, okay, I understand, but in order to do this, we'll have to bite the bullet. I don't want to. I'm not really consenting to the government involved, but for me to do this, I have to do that.
So this question falls outside of my area of study. So my area of study would be sort of moral philosophy. And I can give you sort of what I interpret to be the moral evaluation of a government marriage certificate. But and that's easy. It falls in the amoral category, because from a moral standpoint, no contract with the government can be valid because the entire institution is invalid. So if you see some benefit in getting a marriage certificate, let's say for tax benefits or medical insurance purposes, or all the legal list of restrictions that being married to somebody gets you out of. Like, I can visit my wife in the hospital, I can make decisions for her if she's in trouble, only if I've done this magical legal process. Then those decisions come after the moral question. Like, is there something immoral about getting a marriage certificate from the government? And I think that's easy and that's clear. No, it's fine. It's an amoral question. Then it goes on to like a relationship question and a pragmatic question that's kind of between you guys. What are the costs? What are the benefits? What are the advantages that it gives you in taxes and the ability to help each other if you get sick, or if one of you dies and you have a will situation where you need to pass assets around instead of having the assets like revert to their extended family or something like that. Like, these are all questions that are outside of my I try and stay to what I study and not try and give advice on the entire world. So I would just say that it's a question that falls into that other category where you guys just gotta weigh the costs and benefits and make the best decision. Consult an expert.
Yeah. Right. Well, I feel like that's kind of like I wanted to reach out to you because I kind of do consider you like the expert, and with deciding what things are kind of like the moral decisions behind certain actions when it comes to anarchy, because I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm probably stammering a little bit.
No, it's fine. I mean, like, in my relationship, it's a no-brainer. Like, there's so many advantages if you're in a relationship with somebody you care about. Like, just in medical stuff alone. Like, anytime my wife has a medical situation, if she hadn't previously somehow authorized me to even know that she was in the hospital, they wouldn't talk to me. That's not good. And especially if I needed to make life and death decisions for her treatment. I mean, yeah, you that's important. We have children together, which I don't know if that's going to be in your future, but like, if you have kids, man, like, there's a lot of considerations that affect every area of your life when it comes to marriage, and sometimes that stupid government magical piece of paper makes things a lot simpler.
Right. Yeah, because like I feel like because you were just mentioning like a case of someone that, well, like, it's in the hospital or dies, and like that kind of just hit a kind of a chord for me because I actually became a widower 2 years ago. So, and this is back obviously in my status day. So obviously I had all the stuff that I needed, but like, these are the kind of things that pops in my head because I've had them happen to me, and I want to make sure that I can take all the steps that I need in case anything like that were to ever happen again. So
yeah, I'm sure that you knew you had a lot of questions that you had, a lot of problems that you had to handle when that happened. I'm sorry that it happened, by the way. That's terrible. I can't even imagine. I literally can't, like, it's an existential terror for me to sit here and even think about my spouse passing on. But yeah, like, when that happens, I can't imagine you would have appreciated having the extra drama of trying to fight the government and potentially even extended family for say in what happens with things like assets and stuff like that. Like, if you're married, it's pretty cut and dry. So
right. So,
but yeah, consult.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like asking you because I don't know anybody else in the anarchy community that I felt comfortable asking that question to. So I appreciate all the feedback that you've given me on that.
Especially with kids. Again, I don't know if you ever plan to have kids, but man, like, you don't want to have to fight for custody of your kids because you weren't married or something like that. That's terrifying. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we actually have kind of talked about, because we actually, maybe I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, actually watched your video on parroting. I forgot what the title of the video was, but you were in Anarchapulco.
Oh yeah, the 2020 talk on
yes.
parenting? Yeah.
So yeah. We really enjoyed that video, and you almost got me to cry because, like, oh my God, that was heart. I could definitely feel your heart in that moment.
I can't watch that video because it brings it all back, and I cry right every single time I get back into it.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean
So,
it's tough, man. Life is not always easy.
right. So,
But thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
you're welcome. So, I feel like that's kind of all the questions I have. Um,
Well, that was fun.
just yeah, I appreciate it. I definitely wanted to try to make this like episode worthy for you. I don't know if this will be usable or not, but because I'm actually also thinking about creating a channel for myself, kind of like explaining it to like how I got into being an anarchist because I feel like with you and Larkin, there's a lot of like philosophy and stuff like that, but I haven't really seen any channels where they're like talking about going through the process of being a statist and becoming an anarchist. So I'm kind of thinking about doing that. So one of the reasons why I want to have this chat with you because I want to have my ducks in an order before doing certain things.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I appreciate the chat. I appreciate you being one of the few people that are interested in stepping forward and challenging me and being challenged yourself and asking questions and admitting when you might not know. And these are the things we need more of. So I appreciate you being that person.
and I appreciate you uh, uh, giving me this moment too, because not many I haven't seen anybody but your channel even putting the hand out to have this talk. So I
Yeah, it's
appreciate
interesting.
that as well.
It's interesting. I wonder
All
why.
right.
We need more. All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Yes.
I will talk to you soon.